Let my dad go, and I'll make you walk." The courtroom erupted in laughter until they saw the judge stand up alone. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, what time is it and where are you watching from? Also, don't forget to strike that like and subscribe button. The sound of the wooden gavel echoed, and the bailiff's voice cut through the air. "All rise." The murmurs died down as Judge Raymond Anderson made his entrance, his black robe sweeping over the sides of his wheelchair. At 62, his presence was still as commanding as ever. His legs were paralyzed, but the authority in his piercing steel blue eyes remained untouched. For the past decade, he'd handed down sentences with an unforgiving reputation, especially when it came to men like the one sitting before him today. Elijah Carter, late 30s, a black man in a faded peach prison jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front, sat motionless at the defendant's table. His name was just another entry in the system. He was charged with obstruction, fraud, and resisting arrest. To the court, he was another statistic, another file in a growing pile. To Judge Anderson, it was an open and shut case. Repeat offender. No remorse. The tension in the room was palpable as the trial neared its final phase, sentencing. The prosecutor stood tall, his voice firm. "Your Honor, the people recommend no less than 15 years. This man has wasted the court's time with absurd claims of false imprisonment. Despite all the evidence against him, he's continued to lie about who he is, about his actions, about his intentions. It's time he faced the consequences." But what happens when the truth is a matter of life and death? Would this be the moment that turned everything upside down? Elijah kept his head down, his gaze fixed on the cold, worn table in front of him. His public defender sat beside him, her silence speaking volumes. She'd long given up the fight. Hours of back and forth had drained her, and now she was just waiting for the inevitable. Judge Anderson shifted in his chair, preparing to speak, when something unexpected happened. The courtroom doors groaned open, cutting through the tense atmosphere. A faint patter of footsteps echoed across the room, drawing everyone's attention. A gasp rippled through the space as a little girl, no more than 7, walked in. She wore a simple light blue dress, her hair neatly braided on either side. Alone. No one was with her, no one tried to stop her. She moved purposefully down the aisle, her tiny feet clicking against the floor. Row after row of spectators fell silent. The lawyers paused their murmuring. Even the bailiffs stopped mid-motion as she made her way past them all, until she stopped right in front of Judge Anderson's bench. The judge blinked in confusion, his authority temporarily shaken. "Who is this child?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Before anyone could react, the girl met his gaze. Her eyes were calm, steady, almost unnervingly so. She took a breath, then spoke with unwavering confidence. "Let my daddy go, and I'll make you walk." The room erupted. Laughter spilled from the gallery. A snicker escaped from the prosecutor's side. Even one of the guards couldn't help but grin. Judge Anderson, visibly taken aback, blinked again. "What did you say?" The little girl didn't flinch. She repeated, her voice as clear as before, "I said, if you let him go, I'll make you walk." But who was this child, and what did she really mean? What was she willing to do to make that impossible promise come true? The judge leaned back, his expression one of utter disbelief. "This isn't a place for jokes or fairy tales," he muttered, a mix of irritation and confusion. "Bailiff, remove the girl." Suddenly, Elijah rose halfway from his seat, his voice filled with urgency. "Please, just let her speak." "Sit down," Anderson snapped, his patience wearing thin. "This is highly irregular." "I came because you're not listening," the girl said calmly. "Nobody listens to my dad. They don't know who he really is." Anderson narrowed his eyes. And who is he exactly? He used to help people, she replied. He made them better. More than you ever did. A few chuckles rippled through the room. Even the stenographer had to glance down, trying to hide a smile. Anderson shot a look at his clerk, clearly annoyed. Why is she even allowed in here? Who let her in? She's his daughter, the bailiff replied awkwardly. She walked in alone, refused to leave. We didn't know what to do. You should have stopped her at the door. We tried. The judge turned back to the girl, his voice sharp. What's your name, child? Faith, she answered quietly. The room fell silent. Anderson's voice softened, though his discomfort was clear. Faith, I don't know what you think is going to happen here, but this is a courtroom, not whatever this is. This is exactly where it needs to happen, she said. You've been sitting in that chair for 10 years, haven't you? Anderson stiffened, his jaw tightening. That's none of your concern. You couldn't feel your legs after the accident. They said your spine was broken, that you'd never walk again. Anderson's lips pressed together, his fingers tightening around the wheels of his chair. But you want to walk, Faith said softly, stepping closer. Anderson's hands gripped the wheels harder. The bailiff shifted, uneasy. I'm not here to scare you, Faith continued, her voice gentle but firm. But I'm asking you something no one else will. Please don't hurt my dad again. He didn't lie. You just didn't believe him. But what was Anderson really hiding? And would Faith's words change the course of this trial forever? Anderson's eyes flickered toward Elijah, his jaw tight with tension. Faith, undeterred, raised her hand slowly, as though reaching for something that only she could see. If you give him back to me, she whispered, her voice barely audible, I'll give something back to you. Anderson opened his mouth, but then stopped, a strange sensation spreading through him. For the first time in years, he felt warmth. It wasn't pain or tingling, just a soft, unexpected heat, like the sun's rays on a cold morning. He glanced down at his legs, but nothing had changed. Still, that warmth lingered, stirring something deep inside. His gaze shifted back to Faith. The courtroom was silent. Faith raised her hand just a little higher. Please, she pleaded again, her voice filled with quiet desperation. Let him go. Elijah's face quivered, his eyes welling up with unshed tears. She's not lying, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. For the first time in his career, Judge Anderson found himself speechless. The room seemed to hold its breath. His eyes were locked on the small, steady hand extended toward him, unwavering. The warmth that had touched him earlier now felt stronger, as if creeping through nerves he thought were long dead. An impossible flutter stirred in his stomach. Faith didn't blink. Her hand remained outstretched, unshaken. No one moved. The bailiffs exchanged uncertain glances, unsure whether to step in. Slowly, Anderson's fingers loosened their grip on the rims of his wheelchair. What are you doing to me? He asked, his voice hoarse. I'm not doing anything, Faith replied gently. You're the one who's always wanted to walk. I'm just unlocking what's still inside you. You're a child, Anderson said, his voice sharp. She nodded, her gaze never wavering. And you're afraid, she added. Anderson's jaw tightened. You think this is fear? You think I'm scared of some fairy tale? No, Faith replied calmly. You're scared of being wrong. Could he face the truth about himself? Was the key to walking again right in front of him? The word struck him like a punch to the gut. His hands gripped the armrests of his wheelchair, knuckles white. She was right, every single word. For the past decade, he hadn't just accepted the paralysis in his legs. He had accepted it in his spirit, his mind, and even in his judgments. The day he lost his ability to walk was the day he chose to stop believing in anything he couldn't understand. He built a life around that chair, locking the world out and pretending he had control. But now, something inside him was shifting, something he hadn't felt in years. He glanced over at Elijah, whose eyes were fixed on Faith, wide with awe, but not surprise. "You knew she could do this," Anderson said, his voice shaky. Elijah swallowed hard. "She's done things before, small things, miracles, I thought. But I never asked her to. Never let her try this." "Why now?" "Because I told her I might never make it out of here," Elijah answered, his voice tight. "I said I might be gone a long time. And she said, 'Not if I help.'" The judge's eyes returned to Faith. The warmth in his legs had spread to his thighs now. His heart raced as he looked down, blinking in disbelief. For the first time in 10 years, his right foot twitched. The courtroom exploded. Gasps, screams, chairs scraping against the floor. But Faith didn't flinch. Elijah stood, his hands trembling in the cuffs, barely able to believe what he was seeing. "Judge, what's happening?" Anderson's face was drained of color as he looked down, wide-eyed, as his left foot moved, then his legs, slowly, painfully. He pressed his palms against the arms of the chair and, with a groan, pushed himself up. He stood, on 2 feet. The room fell silent. The prosecutor's mouth hung open, his expression frozen in disbelief. The bailiff took a step back, staring as if he had seen a ghost. Judge Raymond Anderson, the once paralyzed judge, stood, legs trembling beneath him, but standing. His voice caught in his throat. Faith stepped back, a soft smile on her lips. "Now, please give me back my dad." What had just happened? Could this miracle change everything, or was there more to this story than they all knew? The judge slumped back into his chair, not from defeat, but from pure disbelief. His entire body trembled, a storm of confusion and awe washing over him. This can't be real. But the laughter that had filled the room earlier was gone. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with the weight of what had just happened. The clerk's voice broke through the stillness, barely a whisper. "Sir, what do we do now?" Anderson's gaze fell on the file in front of him. Elijah's record, a string of arrests, most of them dismissed. Only one charge with no conviction. This current case was based on an anonymous tip, no solid evidence, no victim willing to testify. Something about it had always unsettled him, but he'd buried those feelings under layers of assumptions. "Bring me the arresting officer's report," he commanded, his voice unsteady. The courtroom sprang into action. Papers shuffled, documents appeared. Then, something else emerged. Inconsistencies, gaps in the timeline, fabricated witness testimonies. It all unraveled before his eyes, piece by piece. Within an hour, Judge Anderson issued a full reversal of judgment. "Mr. Elijah Carter," he said slowly, his voice wavering as he stood once more, "you are hereby cleared of all charges. Your record will be expunged, and this court owes you an apology." Faith ran to her father, her arms wrapping around him as Elijah, still in chains, collapsed to his knees. He held her tight, his voice choked with emotion. "She did what she promised," he whispered, his face buried in her shoulder. Anderson stepped forward, his curiosity piqued. "I need to know, how did she do that? What power did Faith hold that no one could explain? And would the answer change everything Anderson had ever known about miracles?" Elijah locked eyes with the judge, unwavering. "She didn't heal you. She reminded you that the power to heal was always within you." Anderson's face twisted in confusion. "That doesn't make sense." "It's not meant to," Elijah said, a quiet certainty in his voice. For the first time in years, Anderson's stern expression softened into a smile. "You're free, Mr. Carter." He turned to the bailiff. "Remove the chains." With a sharp clink, the shackles fell to the floor. Overcome with emotion, Elijah lifted Faith into his arms, their faces wet with tears. They turned to walk away, but just before reaching the door, Anderson's voice stopped them. "Faith." She turned around, meeting his gaze. "Thank you." Faith gave a subtle nod. "Now maybe you can believe again." A quiet tension hung in the air. What had just unfolded in that courtroom? And was there more to this miracle than anyone realized? If this story moved you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Where are you tuning in from? We're always excited to hear from you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.